What is SRA and IRS when it comes to talking about four-wheelers, ATVs, you know, even some side-by-sides? I think these older Rangers back there have the SRA rear end. So SRA is solid rear axle. This here candidate is a Honda Recon. It is one solid rear axle all the way across. That is SRA. The IRS refers to independent rear suspension. So you have a gearbox, differential, whatever you prefer to call it, and an axle coming off each side. So you've got an independent rear suspension. A lot of times this is referring to Hondas, and whenever I've ever ran into trying to do something that required using IRS or SRA, I've said it too many times now, it is in reference to wheels. So I'm going to show you how you could tell wheels if they're IRS or SRA wheels. So here we got a couple ITP wheels. That is a front, which is going to be about the same offset on just about anything. Some of the offsets, they switch and swatch, but one of the best ways you could tell if they're IRS wheels is if the front offset is really close to the rear offset. These are IRS wheels to begin with. This is from a solid rear axle. This is these are all 4x110 Honda wheels. And you can see how much more sunk in that is. That allows the hub to allow the wheel to poke out. Where this one allows the wheel to sit in much further, just very similar to like the front wheel. Now, you can run the SRA wheels on just SRA bikes. You can put it on a IRS. It will fit on there. It's just gonna poke that wheel out way out here and kind of look goofy unless that's what you're into. These IRS wheels from the independent rear suspension bikes, we've had good luck putting, I believe it was a 2-inch wheel spacer, and that still gets you that sort of flush look right there that you should have on this Honda. Aside from that, IRS machines generally are much smoother riding machines. I've got a Outlander 850. That thing rides absolutely amazing. These Recons, the solid rear axles, they don't quite ride as good, or even like the Foreman 500s. This here is a Rincon 650 that's IRS. The Recon's a 250. This is a smoother riding machine than that Recon by far. It is smoother riding than a Foreman 500, but it also has its downsides. If I were towing a lot with it, I would prefer to have a solid rear axle. Aside from work type stuff, I think it's a little bit harder, in my opinion, to do a donut on an IRS bike versus a solid rear axle bike. I can whip donuts real easy on my LTZ. The Outlander, since I guess it allows the back end to shift, doesn't quite spin the same. There's a little more maintenance on the IRS bikes because you've got, you know, 2 CV axles, more shocks, more bushings and all that. I know on the Polarises, the bushings that are all right there are real bad about wearing out. Like, I don't know if that's a bad design or what, but the plus side it has is how much more ground clearance you get. Where on the solid rear axle Honda, you only get as much ground clearance as that axle will clear. So unless you can put a big tire on there, you're not getting quite as much clearance. And believe me, when I say that gets in the way, I have a guy who rides with us. He rides a Honda 4Trax 300, and that thing's always getting high centered just because the axle clearance right there. Thanks for watching. And if you have a question, drop it down in the comments down below. I'll help you with whatever I can. Like and subscribe so you can see some more content of these four-wheelers. Like these two right here are going to be getting rebuilt. And that Foreman right there will also be getting rebuilt. I'm trying to track down a bumper and rack for it. This Rincon, I believe it just needs a cam chain tensioner. And this Recon, well, it needs a handful of things, but they all three run.